Superhuman AI crushes poker pros at 6-player Texas Hold'em. Actually, a really interesting story here on Gizmodo. So AI, they've been trying to program AI, right, to play all types of human games, and with increasing complexity, using the usual machine learning type stuff.
StarCraft and Dota.
StarCraft, Go before that, chess before that, and then they put it up against the elite professionals from the human race, and see how it fares. Texas Hold'em actually a lot more complicated than you might imagine. I don't know if you ever played poker before.
Yes, I have.
Why is that funny, man? I don't know. Some people, I'm sure, don't play poker. Just making sure, Will. Jeez, man. Because there's like a lot of. It's not. It's not the pathway towards success is not obvious, right? There's bluffing. That people don't always make the right plays.
Yeah, there's creativity in it.
And
intuition.
There's no way for the AI to know which cards are in people's hands and which ones are in the deck. There's no way for them to know. So there's sort of chance aspect and there's behavioral aspect, which makes this very difficult. Now, what they did is what they would typically do with an AI like this is it would originally train itself by playing itself a lot. And that's one thing AI can do that you can't do as a human. Or, it's very difficult to do, to just play hours on end. So I think, what was it? How long did this thing play? It played for some astronomical amount of time that it actually played against itself, learning the correct strategy. It was, where was it? It was like
10,000 hands?
No, 10,000 hands, I think it actually played eventually against humans. But anyhow, it played a boatload. You see that, Will?
Okay.
It played a boatload of hands against itself, and then it saw what worked most frequently, trillions of hands. Self-play in which it played against itself over trillions of hands. So now what are you going to do? You're a human. What? You can't play trillions of hands. So it played trillions of hands, and it figured out which moves worked most consistently and how. And interestingly enough, it used a move called a donk bet. Do you know what that is, Will? You ever heard of that? I guess people who play online probably know this. This happens when a player matches the bet, but then starts the next round with a bet. So rather than raising, you just match the bet and then bet again, which is like, why didn't you just raise? Like, are you second-guessing yourself? That's not a very strong move. So usually, I guess that's poker players who aren't strong players who do this kind of thing. But the AI figured out a way in which to send a signal which would catch a typical response from these high-level players it played against and use it as a technique to get where it wanted or to get the responses it wanted. So it played against a bunch of high-level guys you've probably heard of if you're a poker fan, some World Series of Poker champions, Chris Ferguson, Darren Elias, Jason Les, Jimmy Chu, and Sean Ruane. And all of them said, this thing is bananas, we're done, we're dead. And of course, it got me to thinking, like, how long is it before somebody implements one of these AIs on online poker and just crushes?
Yeah.
Because this in here, they say that based on its play against all professionals, it was winning at a rate of $1,000 an hour consistently, right? And that's against the best players in the world.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. So you get yourself this AI, which they claim is running on 2 CPUs, 2 computers. Yeah, using 2 CPUs and $150 on a cloud computing service. That's the overhead for this thing. Now imagine you throw that at Poker Stars or whatever against players who aren't even this good. Maybe it's doing $2,000 an hour. You just leave it running. Think about that for a second. It's better than Bitcoin. This is better than Bitcoin anyway. So a very complicated thing to program is called Pluribus. And it just showcases how in certain circumstances, these things are capable through self-play of uh, achieving a data bank and a set of behaviors and essentially an experience set that a human would need a lifetime to achieve. Any human, no matter how good you are. And so you're starting to recognize that all these places that we look at human achievement and think like, wow, that's amazing. Maybe it's a golf swing, 10,000 hours to be an expert in something. It turns out for games like this, because of the nature of a computer, doesn't need to take a break, take a rest, doesn't need to eat a chicken burger, It just keeps going because it's programmed to do so, because it's told to do so. And humans just we can't condense time like that in the same fashion.
Yeah.
And we have tendencies, by the way. The way we perceive risk and pride and weirdness.
A lot of external forces to affecting emotional state.
Emotions. What's going on back? It doesn't care.
They're playing like a trillion hands while you're eating a chicken burger.
Exactly. You're like, can we take a break? It's like, yeah, I'll just play a quick trillion. I'll just play a quick trillion while you break. I'll just get better. You understand? So you don't want to play this. You do not want to play Pluribus, Will. You're dead. You understand? What's up, Kurt? Yes. Yeah, but okay, so online poker, you don't see the other players, right? Predominantly, that's how people are playing poker, right? These days is online. And so you just have by the way, they weren't told who was who. It just had names. They didn't. Yeah, so they envisioned it like a human, and they could not map this thing. They couldn't predict it. It apparently, its inconsistency in play is part of the reason it was so successful. Because what good poker players do is they're like, I remember what he did when he had that particular hand. And so I'm going to back down now because those behaviors led to that outcome. You can't map this thing because it knows how to unmap itself to map you. And humans can't do that because the way we're programmed is like, if this thing worked, I'm going to note that. If this thing didn't, I'm going to note that. So its unpredictability was actually apparently it's a thing that these pro poker players try to do in their own game, is be unpredictable, but they can't help but fall back into certain patterns. And anyhow, so it's a message. It's much like the what was it, Dota, or which game was it or was it League of Legends?
That what?
What was the recent one that Google's AI was it StarCraft? No, there was one more recently than that.
I saw a Dota one like a year ago.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, these types of games that aren't zero sum, these types of games that is not like chess, for example, or Go, all the rules, they can map out the whole path, start to finish the game, all the variables, and so on. These games like this, 6 players, unpredictability, not knowing all the rules, not knowing all the cards, this maps a lot more closely to real life, which is why these particular types of AI are more powerful, because their behaviors, their prowess, their sophistication lies within an environment that's a lot more like the world. And so if they can deal with this type of nuance, you can imagine mapping them to other human scenarios which have a lot of nuance to them as well. So these things are a lot closer to being that kind of futuristic AI that you're afraid of, or that could be helpful.
Nah.
Okay, no, it's over. Starts with poker.
Betting their way to
poker first, autonomous vehicle transformer thing next, right?